These are devotions for people at a social distance. This morning, in my personal devotions, I was reading in Deuteronomy chapter 26. This is all the business at the end of the book of Deuteronomy as Moses winds up his leadership of the people and gives them the last bits of instruction. And I was just kind of struck by some interesting phrasing. Moses says, "Today you have obtained the Lord's agreement to be your God, and for you to walk in his ways, to keep his statute, his commandments, and his ordinances, and to obey him." So God has agreed to be your God, right? So that is what God has agreed to, which implies that the people will behave and act in certain ways. Verse 18, "Today the Lord has obtained your agreement." So this is what the people are agreeing to be his treasured people, as he promised you, and to keep his commandments. Now that did kind of strike me because, on the one side, yes, God agrees to be their God. But on the other side, the people agree to be God's treasured people. This idea of being treasured, of being beloved, of being valued by God is something that we agree to. It's not something that God opposes on us. God, yes, may value us, may love us, may cherish us, but we have to, at some level, agree to be that people, to see ourselves as having that kind of value, of being of that kind of worth. And yes, when we realize that, when we agree to that, it does imply that we will behave and act in certain ways and act and live with integrity and so on. But the first step is to agree to be that treasured people, to be willing to see yourself in a certain way as having value, as having worth in God's eyes. That's where it starts. It doesn't start very clearly by us working and acting and behaving in such a way as to become treasured. No, God chooses to treasure us. We choose to accept that about ourselves, that we are treasured. So how you see yourself and how you are willing to see yourself as having value, as having worth, is where it all begins. That value, that worth is not something we earn. And I know we struggle with that very thought all the time, that we think we have to be a certain way and act in certain ways in order to have value and worth. No, God gives us that value. We must choose to accept that we have that value. And yes, out of that may spring all kinds of ways of acting and behaving, but it starts with what we accept about who we are in God's eyes, how we choose to see ourselves. I think this is absolutely central to the gospel, to the Christian faith, that this is where it all starts. Lord our God, we sometimes struggle. We sometimes struggle to see ourselves as you see us, and in particular to see the value and that worth that we already have. And let that be our starting point. Let us choose to see you as having that value and worth in your eyes, in an absolute sense. Amen.